Oh, goodness. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Welcome to the Food is Life podcast with me, Jambo, and
me, Steph.
So, Steph, this week we are talking about one of the best things in life for me, something that I rely on heavily for so many different reasons. We are talking all things caffeine.
Oh, yes, we are. I think we should probably start with the fact that it might be controversial. It might stop people listening to the podcast, but I am not a coffee fan. I don't like coffee.
Which hurts my soul.
I know.
I was recently in Italy and I just every opportunity, just a coffee. Like, I don't know how people can't like it.
I know. To be fair, I didn't like the taste or the smell, and then I worked in a coffee shop like way back when. Now I do like the smell, but I can't do the taste, and I feel like go on.
I would drink coffee without the caffeine.
Oh yeah, see, I wish what kind of part of me wishes I had this, because I know it's like such a popular thing, but also the other part of me is like, well, maybe it's not such a bad thing, because otherwise maybe I get addicted and then my life falls apart and there's no more Food is Life.
So Steph, let's go on to caffeine.
Sorry, yes. Anyway.
Before we go off on many tangents and just lose trail of thought. So caffeine, big part in a lot of people's day-to-day lives. I think everyone's probably aware of the main benefits of caffeine. First thing in the morning, I think probably 99% of the people will probably pop on the kettle and make themselves a coffee or a tea. Or
well, that's actually that's a good point. Caffeine doesn't just come in the form of coffee, right? We forget.
Should we talk about all the things it isn't?
Well, to be fair,
things.
Yeah, I think not just relying or just talking about coffee, because I always think caffeine equals coffee and tea, but there is lots of other things it's in as well, right? So
isn't it in chocolate as well?
There is a little bit in chocolate. I think it's more in darker chocolate, but we're talking smaller amounts here, so we don't really need to worry too much, I suppose. But
just I'm trying to make myself seem smart. So yeah, we obviously, the majority of us bang on a kettle first thing in the morning. We have caffeine first thing, usually in the form of coffee, tea. But if you're, a nutter, potentially an energy drink or a bar of chocolate. My first question in regards to caffeine, which we briefly touched on before we started this podcast, was people, caffeine and tolerances. Now, my first is going to be a double-sided question, I think. Firstly, can people build up a tolerance on caffeine? And secondly, have people got different, different tolerances to caffeine from the get-go? Are more people a lot more sensitive and won't build up a tolerance? Or some people just sort of dead inside and well?
Yeah, so you've probably heard of some people can have a caffeinated coffee half an hour before they go to bed and sleep like a baby. Other people, if they have a coffee at like 10 a.m, can't fall asleep because they're still high on caffeine. So yeah, in the science, there is responders and non-responders to caffeine. So what the mechanisms are, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but you do get people that just do not respond to caffeine, which is just crazy, isn't it? But yes, that definitely is a thing. And in terms of the tolerance, if you are a responder, you can and you likely will build up your tolerance. So this is where coffee and caffeine goes wrong for a lot of people, because when you take caffeine on board, what's basically happening is you're blocking the tiredness receptors in your brain. So if you're someone that initially has a couple of coffees a day just to, get through the day, or they enjoy it, whatever, you get that buzz, fine. After a while, few weeks, few months down the line, you then need 3 to get the same feeling, or to block the same amount of tiredness that you did 2 months ago with 2 cups of coffee, So yes, tolerance is definitely a thing. And I'm sure I don't even need to say that to a lot of people listening to this podcast.
Yeah, especially probably parents.
Yeah.
I've think about all those parents in the early mornings. Okay. I mean, I think that's probably what the first thing that comes to people's minds when we talk about caffeine and where caffeine comes from, coffee, and what we use it from day-to-day life. What I'm really intrigued to know, and we discussed this off podcast, but let's get onto the podcast, let's bring it in, is how can caffeine be used when in a calorie deficit?
Oh, that was a loaded question. This is, for 99% of the listeners, why we are here today, to answer this very specific question. So caffeine, not for everyone, but for a lot of people, can be used as an appetite suppressant. Oh yeah, should we just finish the podcast there? So
yeah, just drop it.
Yeah, so it's a tool that not enough dieters probably use in the toolbox, and to be fair, it's not something I shout about, but maybe not enough. So using caffeine as an appetite suppressant to help you stick within your calorie deficit, to help you stay more consistent, is or can be a good thing to use, right? So this is where it gets a little bit more complicated, because I feel like in a lot of ways caffeine gets a bad reputation in society. You know, we all love it and we're all addicted to it and blah blah blah. But caffeine, like we're saying, blocks the tiredness receptors in your brain. So what we have to be careful of is it's not going to have an overriding impact on sleep or quality of sleep or length of sleep, because sleep, when we're looking at staying in a calorie deficit, is top of the food chain, right? It's probably the most important part of any part of a weight loss journey. If someone is struggling to sleep or has bad quality sleep, then their appetite is just through the roof for a lot of people. So caffeine has to be used in the right way. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. I got one of my world famous tangents that I'm going to go off, but I'm going to talk of my own experience here. So when I go through a calorie deficit, currently in a calorie deficit, going really well as well, I will wake up in the morning, and usually I wake up and I'm really hungry, and instead of going, right, I need to have breakfast, because I know if I have breakfast straight away in the morning, I'm so hungry that I'll be like, get the calories in and regret it later. So I actually use caffeine first thing in the morning as a way to suppress that feeling as well. When you got something in your stomach, once you've got something in your stomach, you usually feel a lot less, I don't know, I'm ravenous in the morning. I might just be the only one, but so I'll have a cup of coffee in the morning first thing, use it as a way of doubling up, having something in my stomach, and then suppressing the appetite a little bit, because otherwise I would smash usually 800 calories in the morning. And then what I do as well is after I have lunch, so if I have like lunch, sometimes I might feel a little bit snacky after. I always make myself a cup of coffee afterwards. And it works, it's so good. I don't know whether as well, maybe there's an element of psychologicalness in there.
Just what I was about to say. Yeah.
Like, because I know that it can work. Does it work? And as well, obviously, like, I mean, I'm sure you probably said this to your lean beans before, but you know, having a glass of water before you eat or after you eat, just to make yourself feel a bit fuller. So I don't know whether it's all a bit psychological as well.
Yeah, I mean, a bit of both is what I would say. So like you're talking about, after I do that after dinner, and I'll have a tea after dinner, because you know, sometimes when you get that sweet craving and you just want something, you know, just a little bit of chocolate or
Do you have
something.
sugar in your tea?
Well, this is what I was, but no, I don't. This is what I was about to get onto. So did you think I was gonna have sugar?
Yeah.
Well, not because sugar's bad.
You're sweet enough, Steph.
Yeah, so another shocker is that I all throughout the day, every day, I drink decaf tea. So like I'm saying, after dinner, I'll have a tea, usually after dinner, because yes, it's that tea and you're just having a hot drink and you're having something, but I'm having water as well.
Yeah.
Right. And it's easy just to forget, oh, actually, I could just have a glass of water and probably do the same thing, but it just feels like more of an experience.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know why. I think a lot of it is psychological, probably, but it definitely works. And like we actually said, like when it comes to being in a calorie deficit, caffeine can play a massive role in helping you get through it all. And I think the first thing that a lot of people tend to think about is like the perkiness it gives you, like the energy it might give you, the like almost counterbalance the fact that you might feel a bit low in energy. But I don't ever use it in that way. I've never seen it work in that way, but certainly like suppressing the appetite. Maybe mine's just become psychological over the years, but I do think it works.
Yeah, no, there's definitely science behind it, but there will be that psychological impact for a good amount of people too. So yeah, it's definitely, if the listeners haven't used this as a tool before or haven't thought of it in this way, it's definitely worth experimenting with. Definitely.
Yeah. I've got a question for you, Steph. Say I'm a lean beaner and I find my energy slumps a lot when I'm in a calorie deficit. Maybe my calories I'm undercalculating them in my macros or whatever. I'm being a bit naughty. I'm trying to push the boat a little bit too much. Would you ever say to a lean beaner about using caffeine as a way to, keep the energy levels up? Or
hand on heart, that is never a bit of advice I've ever given, and not because I don't agree with it, but simply because there's usually other factors that will play a bigger role. So people that are relying on caffeine to boost you and get you through the day, I would argue there's other places we need to focus on first. And generally, for most people, that's actually sleep. I mean, I don't know about you, but a lot of like my Lean Bean legends, we do a bit of work on sleep, like some a lot, some a little, because so many people either don't sleep enough, don't sleep well, and then they get up in the morning, they have coffee, they've had their second, third, fourth, fifth coffee just to get through the day. And then it's just a vicious cycle, isn't it?
It's funny for the listeners. Obviously, me and Steph are very fortunate not to have kids in our lives yet, where we have been sleep deprived. But before I go on to our next point, but me and Steph went out on the weekend and we had a couple of beers together, and we were sat there while we're having a beer talking about how we were worried about how it was going to affect our sleep, and how we don't want it to impact our sleep and our recovery. And we have got to that point in our lives where we are old in our ways, but it is important. Sleep is, and we were saying like it does. You don't realize how much it impacts. I think we actually spoke about this on the podcast when we talked about training when you're ill or recovery when you're ill. How much caffeine impacts your sleep pattern as well. So I was talking about how I was taking Lemsips or Beechams, others are available, but it had high caffeine content in it, and I was still taking it at like 5-6 o'clock, and it was affecting my sleep.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, caffeine's a funny one because in some ways it, like I said, gets a bad reputation, but there are also health benefits to caffeine, and it's the antioxidants part of the compound of the coffee bean. They have a good impact on like psychological things, and Alzheimer's is one of them that I know. But it's finding the fine balance, because you can overdo it, but also not having to go full cold turkey if you don't want to, because there are health benefits to having some caffeine in your day. So
yeah, 100%. I definitely, like you said, I think it is kind of demonized a little bit by society. Don't know why, but definitely has a part to play. Okay, I've got another question for you, Steph. This might have been more suited towards Portia, your dietitian friend. Dietitian. Yeah.
I'll see what I can do. I'll see what I can do.
Caffeine's impact on the gut, because I know I never had this problem, but I know a lot of people that, for example, will have 2 sips of their coffee and will be, getting the toilet roll in hand as they run up the stairs.
Yeah, that's I believe a scientific based fact, that it does push through well, your gut faster, definitely.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. But then again, with that, you've also, I don't know again the exact mechanisms of it, but you've also just guzzled half a mug or a mug of water, most people. But but it just shows it's not just that, because people that have an espresso, for example, will get the same impact.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot of people, first thing in the morning, you get up and you have a cup of coffee or tea, whatever, but you've got things moving in general. So it's not necessarily just that, it just gets things moving faster.
Yeah. No, 100%. I went through a stage a couple of years ago, just waking up and go for a walk in the morning. And I find that walk would just get things moving, you know?
Exactly.
Get things waking up.
I think it's a good point, because it just shows we could sit here and be like, yeah, so if you have a coffee in the morning, you're going to poop faster, therefore, you know, whatever. But actually, looking at the broader picture, there's other things in play to that. Like there's water, there's just generally getting moving. Like, would you have got up anyway and gone to the toilet, you know? And go on.
I was going to say, my next question, I love questions, obviously, is how much do you think caffeine is a placebo to a lot of people? And you can leverage that placebo. Again, I think when we talk about placebos, I think they're talked about in like a negative way almost. But whether it actually works or not, like if you've built up a tolerance, or for example, if you have, I don't know, a cup of coffee every day, every morning, without fail, if you took that away, would you be more tired? Or is that like almost like a placebo effect that you think because you haven't got it, you're not awake, vice versa? Do you think that,
Yeah, I think this goes back to habits as well. So I think it's having this deep ingrained habit as a positive reinforcement. Like, let's say, for example, someone gets up in the morning, they have their first coffee before they go for a walk, or before they go to the gym, or before they drink their first glass of water, or before they make their breakfast in the morning, whatever. If it's a positive habit that's reinforced every day, that then if you don't have the coffee or the caffeine or the cup of coffee, you then can't be asked to go out for your walk, or you can't be asked to make your breakfast in the morning. It's not necessarily a placebo, but if it's part of your routine, that's a positive routine, then yeah, I don't know. Does that kind of answer the question?
Yeah. I think like it's for certainly. I think like when we talk about things like placebos and like, oh, it doesn't actually work. But the thing is, if you're getting the results out of it, I always think this with people that are not like like gym supplementations, like pre-workout, for example. I know it's got caffeine in it, and it has got everything else in it. It's got everything under the sun to dilate blood vessels and this and the other. Regardless, like a lot of people, it's an absolute waste of money. But if in your mindset, if you can go to the gym and train that a little bit harder because you've got the pre-workout and you think like the pre-work, you can leverage it as a placebo to be a positive thing.
100% do I agree with that. 100%.
Like so many times I see it as like a negative, like things negative. It's just all in your head. Oh, great if it's all in your head, but it's actually helping you get that 5% more. Brilliant.
Yeah, definitely. Same goes with, let's say, every time before you go to bed, it's just having a positive routine. Like, I don't know, I can't think of an example right now. You read 2 pages of your book, and it's like, if you don't do that one night, then you think you're going to have a bad night's sleep. So for someone that does then read 2 pages of their book every night, even if they come in plastered drunk, read 2 pages, it's, yes, things might be a placebo, but yeah, they definitely don't need to be a bad negative thing.
Okay, Steph, I've got one more question, which I don't actually want you to answer, but I'm just going to leave it hanging for a reason. I'm going to talk about fat burners and how caffeine plays a part. Like a lot of the fat burners you see will have green tea extract and caffeine and I think like bitter orange and stuff like that. Does caffeine have a part to play in the process of fat loss like that, or is that purely a side of just suppressing appetite?
So I can't answer it.
You can answer it. Go on.
Well,
I don't want you to go into too much detail.
okay, not too much detail, but one thing I want to say is when fat burners increase your heart rate, therefore you burn more calories, therefore you might be in a slight deficit. But the chances of you dying have just increased. The chances you ended up in hospital have just increased. Is that worth your life? Is it worth you having crap sleep? Is it worth you having jitters all day, every day? People don't tell you about that side of things.
Yeah.
Right, is that a fair enough answer?
That's fine. Yeah, I just don't want you to go down too much of a rabbit hole to, I think that's something that probably needs a whole episode on, I think, for sure. Okay, Steph, let's hear your takeaway then on caffeine.
Yeah, I think it doesn't need to be, well, I know it doesn't need to be demonized. Up to, I believe the current research says up to 4 cups of coffee. I don't know what that is in terms of energy drinks and all the other equivalents, but up to 4 cups.
I think one energy drink equals about the same as a cup of coffee these days.
Oh, okay. There we go then. Up to 4 cups is not going to do any harm to your health, to your well-being. And if anything, like we've talked about, there is some health benefits. You've got some antioxidants, some healthy compounds in a coffee bean extract that you can utilize in your day-to-day. Is it going to make a massive, powerful difference to your health? Probably not, but it's not something that you should be scared of drinking or consuming. Definitely make sure you use it as a positive impact on your calorie deficit if you are not already, and if it's something that you want to experiment and look at. If you want any help with that, feel free to reach out to either myself or Jumbo, because we can definitely help with that. But yeah, be cautious, because as everyone knows, it can have an impact on sleep, quality of sleep. And we're no sleep experts, but we know firsthand what it's like to have too much caffeine, not sleep well, have an increased appetite the next day, and life is harder, so
100%.
Yeah, that would be my take home. Have you got anything you'd like to add, Jumbo?
Yeah, I'd just say I use caffeine a lot in my day-to-day life, enjoyment or otherwise, but certainly when I use it in a calorie deficit, even if it is a placebo, you still got to leverage it. I think I don't know whether it's habit or whether it's in my mind a little bit, or I don't know, I read an article one time and it's ingrained in there, but yeah, I certainly use caffeine as a way to suppress my appetite a little bit. If you need it to perk you up,
don't think it's a tool that you're using to cheat the system, because caffeine is probably, if not the most researched nutrition topic out there, especially in terms of sport and exercise nutrition and how it works. So it's a natural product, it's a natural thing, caffeine, that is. So don't think it's a cheat or anything like that when it comes to using it to help you with a weight loss goal, because it's not.
100%. Right, Steph, we got to that point in the podcast where I brought this in recently, and I'm just gonna give a shout out to some of our listeners all over the world, because I love the fact that we've got this, and I'm desperate for people to reach out to us, say hello, but it's still not happened to me. Has it happened to you?
What, people reaching out?
Yeah,
I do get random people sign up to my email list from Norway. I think there was a Netherlands person the other day. I was like, what the hell? But you know what? Go on. I was gonna say, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were also saying on it, they were like, we don't know how we get so many listeners. We don't know where these listeners come from. Reach out to us. I was like, oh my God, we say that too.
Yeah, it's just incredible. So I'm just gonna, for the people listening, obviously we have a lot of people in our local area that Steph works with, but then some further out. We've had a listener from Norway.
There we go. I wonder if it's the same person.
A listener from the Netherlands.
No way.
So there's probably your two there. Japan,
Oh, I haven't
We've
seen
got
that.
a dedicated listener from Frankfurt, which seems to keep reappearing. We've got some in America. We've got Pennsylvania, America. We've got people all over the world. It's incredible, and I just would love someone to reach out.
Please
be the
do.
first person to reach out. If you're listening to this, be the first person to reach out, either to me or Steph. Doesn't matter, whoever you feel more comfortable talking to. We are in constant contact with each other, so I'm sure she'll tell me straight away, or I'll tell her. Preferably reach out to me first, because then I sort of win, and me and Steph are really competitive with each other. So,
oh, sure, fair. Yeah.
Further adrift, further away you are from us, the better. Let's see how far we can reach. Steph, where can we find you?
You can find me on social media, Instagram and Facebook at foodislife.nutrition. You can sign up to my email list. If you like what we say on the podcast, you get even more of me most days of the week, straight to your inbox. You can sign up to that either via the website, which is foodislifenutrition.com, or you can go into the show notes just directly below this, and all the links will be there too. Jambo, where can we find you?
Find me on Instagram at jambo.the.great. Remember, slide into those DMs. Just give me a hi, how you doing? I've listened to your podcast. Let me beat Steph at something, because she beats me at everything else we do together. So yeah, give me this, people. Give me it.
Come on, guys. We got this. Jambo.
Cool. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.